Don't all speak at once.
We got Matt Jones down here to the left, and we're going to put Imad Jamahi over here.
He's doing well, right? And when you take a lot of reps, that's when you become better. The game starts slowing down. Things in front of you early on were fast, and you know what you're looking at. Whereas now the game's slowed down for him. He's communicating better, and then the guys around him are seeing it the same way. So all these guys, that's what we've challenged these guys the next 2 weeks at camp. Like, who do you want to be? You want to be a great player? You want to take the next step? And that's what we have to do. And that starts with fundamentals and skills and building those things so that can match the talent level we have. Because he's a talented guy that needs to play that way. Elite, best, number one.
Let's just say his athleticism is, how does that translate here? How does that help you? How does that help a run game?
Everything. I mean, if you're asking guys to do, whatever style play you're doing, right? If he can handle a guy more in a single block than having to double team with him inside all the time, that probably helps schematically. But that just depends on what we're doing, right? The biggest thing with him, though, is like he loves ball. It's really important to him. He wants to know the why, and then he's got a little roughness to him. So the toughness, like that's also a skill set. Like you build that, and that's one of his high qualities too. So whether we're asking him to reach block, back block, pull, whatever those may be, if you have toughness with it, on top of wanting to do it and knowing what you're doing, then you can play at a high level.
For you being your first camp with this group, what are some of the priorities? What are some of the things you're looking for out of the whole O-line unit?
Base, bend, balance, and burst. That'll never change. I'm not trying to cut the question out. Great offensive linemen play with great base and great bend. They're in balance. They're not on the ground, and they burst. They run off the ball. They pass set with urgency. They know what they're doing, and they play really, really fast. And so, as a coach, I can't say, oh, we're looking pretty good. We're veteran guys. Let's go on to something in right field, because at the end of the day, I said this in the spring when I first got here, so it's going to sound like I'm beating a dead horse, but you got to work those techniques and fundamentals and put those in the toolbox every day, because you have to pull those out in the middle of the game, because it's blocking and tackling. We block them, they don't sack CJ, they don't tackle the running backs, balls down the field. If we don't block them, then they tackle us, and that's as elementary as it gets. So we try to stay focused on that, and every day what we're working, why are we working it, and how fast can we put it in the toolbox so that on September 3rd, when we need to pull that out, it's shiny and polished and ready to go.
You strip it down.
Yeah, I think. Well, we just had the pads on for 2 days now, so this week, right, will be it's the grind. It's necessary to make the system work, and so you get through. So some of those young guys that developed in the summer, they got more comfortable in the summer. All of a sudden, you put the pads back on, it starts flashing a little bit. You got to see those guys play. They've got to feel the physicality, the friction. So as we get through this week and the next couple of weeks, that's when you really start to try to maybe pencil guys in or shift some guys around. But right now, we got to go play ball. We've got to identify those younger guys that can creep their way up the depth chart. Right now, they're just working. They're buying in. I mean, that's just every guy. There's not a guy out there right now that's kind of showing up. And, we're talking about taking reps or using reps. Those guys are using their opportunities. They're using reps. Whether they win the rep or lose the rep, they're using those right now. Those guys, as you said, the young tackles, Enix, and they're working his butt off. You got all the young, Jacob James is back and feeling good and fighting. So as you just work your way down the youth of that, these guys right now they're all just working. And it'll shake out as it goes.
Justin, from what we saw in the two practices, you had all the true freshmen working with the tackles. How much of that is the depth of the tackle position right now versus like philosophy and what you want to do when young guys get in here?
I think it's a little bit of both. The speed of if a guy can potentially play out there, then you get the guy on the edge so that he feels the speed of the game out there. And then as you move in, you feel more of the physicality versus if you start everybody hunker down inside and then you try to work out, it's just a different animal out on the island. So I think it's a good teaching progression for those guys if they can handle it. And those guys can, of learning the speed, learning the things out there, and then kind of reeling it back if you need to.
Like the message you give to recruits,
No. You recruit a guy saying you're going to work at this position. Those guys came in, knowing what they were looked at to be. But the good thing is you got to play the five best, right? Across the country you see that where, you would love to slot. This guy's a tackle, this guy's a guard, this guy's this. But if your backup right tackle is not number 6 and you got to slide the right guard out to be right tackle, so your 6 best guys, the backup right guard, you have to play your 5 best. And so the more you can just see what guys can do, the more comfort they can have doing a couple of tasks. You can't spread them too thin. But at the same time, like I said, with those young guys, you start with speed, you start them in space, see how that handles, and then see where you can move it from there.
Just who would like the most maybe hands-on or intense coaching
Well, it's not a competition. I mean, obviously I'm way younger than Kevin Wilson, so I probably have a little more juice than Kev, right? You can tell him I said that too, no? But I played it. That's the way to coach, man. They feel you. They got to feel your passion. You can't stand back there and just bark at a dude and cross your arms and look at your script. If you're in it with them, if you're passionate with them, they feel that, then they'll thrive off that. So I mean, that's not even really. That's just me. You know? And then I look for guys like that, and that's what Mike does. I mean, there's 4 eyes and 2 mouths seeing the same thing, and that's the most important thing. It's not a different message. It's not, hey, you need to do this because I want this. That's who he is too, and I think the guys they like that.
Not to compare or compete, what's been the feedback for the way you run a practice? I'm not going to go 15 in the spring, so they've had an acclimation with that. How do they like you guys bring out?
They like to get better. They, meaning every player in the history of the game. These guys especially, they're craving coaching and teaching and getting better. So once again, I don't think they're looking for like a certain personality type, but if the player and the kid feels that you care about them, you're pushing them, and you're trying to maximize them, and you're making them better, then that's all that matters, and that's what every one of these guys is. There's no pushback. There's no, they're all a different skill set or level, but at the end of the day, you just got to make your guys better. That's the most important thing, and so I look for that.
Justin, those 4 B's in the team, is that new to your guys? Is that something, or you just kind of is it new lingo for, things that they may have been used to previously?
I think that's the game in itself. Maybe the verbalization of that might be new, but I could bring my daughter and my wife out here and ask them, like, can you block a guy when your toes are together and you're standing straight, or would you rather have your legs wide? Lauren Frye would be like, well, you probably need a base, right? So I think just the emphasis and the verbalization of that as an emphasis, and then when we go to drills, we're drilling this, and here's why. I got you, coach. Then if they can see it, then they start putting that picture together.
Justin, how has Paris continued to kind of get reacclimated to the space at tackle compared to where he was last year inside?
Reps.
Yeah.
Busted his butt all summer, getting comfortable in space. All the stuff you said, he's just working. It comes with the speed and the space, and then you got a guy like Zach Harrison and JJB and Jack and JT, and you got dudes across from you rushing you every day. You better get acclimated pretty quick. And he's doing that.
When he kind of first made that switch back, did you see him having to have to get used to that again? And then I guess where he's at now.
Absolutely, because it's just what we talked about earlier. He was inside for 12, 15 games.
Yeah.
And then now you get moved on the island. It's flashing a little quicker there. But the guy's tough, too. He's a fighter. He wants to be great. Everything he does is because he just wants to be great. So looking at those guys. And once again, I'm new here, so sometimes this guy's talking cliches. No, it's just fact. He wants to be a really good player. He asks for the tools to be a good player. He takes those to the skill set and those tools to when it's live, and then they start working, and that's when you build confidence. And he's doing that right now.
Justin, you've already been asked about it.
I was just wondering about the decision to put Donovan and Paris together and Matt and DeJuan together. Is that more about comfortability with those guys, or is there something you like about how their skill sets sort of complement each other that you want to put them on?
I feel like our guards are explosive, powerful, tough guys, and our tackles can do the skill sets we need to do. So there wasn't something really deep about guard that be more simpatico left and him to the right or that, and there was none of that. No.
Kevin insinuated that maybe Donovan was getting that left guard time because if you had to move him outside, that would be an easier adjustment.
Yeah, that just goes to what we talk about. You got to play your 5 guys. So that's what camp's for. Right? You get going, like you said, we build the depth, and the 2 start showing up, and then this guy. Who's the next guy in the game, and how do you shuffle your checker pieces to make sure that you're covered on the board? So could that be a piece? Yeah, maybe if we need it to be. But I don't know that yet because we haven't even been in full pads on yet. We're just still working in the uppers. So that's what we're finding out this week.
Ryan in the spring kind of called unit out, wanted to see more depth, and I know you've already been asked about how the depth's coming along. Did you see guys like Zen, like Jacob James, those guys who were borderline in the 2 deep? Did you see them take that as a challenge this offseason?
Yeah, we all did, right? Myself included, right? So yeah, the summertime was great. They came out, they worked when we weren't here. There was, it's not extra work. It's what you do it till you know it, right? A lot of people say, "Oh, we got to get extra work in." If you don't know it or you don't have it yet, it's really extra. There's no time stamp on it. Those guys worked this summer and they are comfortable. Like we said, we just got to keep practicing. We got to go watch this tape, see the good today, the bad today, the ugly today, and trim the fat and keep working. But yeah, like I said, everyone included took that. We got to build that, and then that's what we're going to do. And so we attack that, and they attack that individually. We do it as a unit and get through camp, see where we're at.
How much has DeWan's transformation changed what he's able to do?
I mean, that's gonna. If you could go in the weight room and walk around all day with like a 45 or a 50-pound plate on your back, and then the next day you took it off, you're gonna move a lot better. So, anytime a guy gets in great shape, it's gonna help. I didn't 60. I'm not saying that, but yeah, and the same deal. Once they get a little taste and they see the success and they bear a little fruit and the understanding of what's going on, that's huge for those guys. Right? And so, yeah, if I can move a little better, 10 pounds lighter, then I'm gonna do that.
I know you weren't here when you first got here, but there was all the talk about how much you love basketball and whatnot. Does he look like a basketball player playing football, or is he fully football?
He's a football guy. Right? Good feet, heavy hands, important to him. He's fighting to be a better version of himself every day. The basketball stuff, though, I mean, you can use that with these guys still talking, right? Especially those Indiana guys, right? With DeWan and Josh and myself. And we tell Zen he's from Kentucky because he's right down on the river. But those Hooper guys, drop step to do something. It's like you're cutting a guy off at the baseline. Remember when you did that, versus Beach Grove? Yeah. So it's maybe more of a teachable thing. That guy's a football player. He can play hoops. Right? And we could probably put together a pretty good 5-on-5 squad. But he's a ball player.
How about Paris, just from like a mental perspective? What most impresses you about his preparation and his film study?
He pushes it right to the peak. He wants to be great. He wants to have all the information. He wants to gather it all. His biggest thing that he's learning right now, he's doing an unbelievable job. Is like, I don't need to look for everything. Just work my way to the right answer through the tools, the technique, whatever the front may be. So I'm not looking for everything. I see exactly what it is because he wants to know everything. And learning the way to get there as opposed to being omniscient, right? That's offensive line playing and stuff too. But his drive, he's unbelievable. He just, why this? Well, I was thinking this, coach. I'm looking at this. Is that right? No. Look at it this way. I got you, coach. And then going and doing it, taking the coaching. So it's so important to him in the drive, and it's going to make him play great.
I think when we
Yeah, these guys love football.
How does that help the process?
Well, it can help or hurt. There's a fine line there where paralysis by analysis versus gaining the information. But as a coach, it's just, you got to get a pulse on the players. You got to know, right? Like I said in the springtime, I think I told you what buttons to push, how to poke them, prod them, love them, hug them, whatever they may be. It's the same when they're gaining knowledge in that. This guy may ask this question or that question. That's a really good question. You ask this question. No, don't get involved in that. So you have to get a good feel for kind of the route they're getting to the answer. But all of them in general, our meetings are great. They do ask right questions. They're watching film. We talk to them about how to watch film, what to watch, right? And that's been really good.
There's a world famous situation that happened here in 2014. Buckeyes went to Virginia Tech something to a better defense, and the Buckeyes offensive had not prepared for that and not seen that. And I'm just wondering, in preseason camp, how much do you want to expose them to sort of the different fronts that the team can surprise you with theoretically?
Yeah, that's part of it. You got to build the toolbox, and so try to simplify as much as you can for the guys of what's the front family. Is it a 4-down front? Is it a bear front? Is it 3 down? And then the exposure to that. But it's the same deal. You can't paralyze a guy going up saying, "Oh, is this the one where it's?" Nope. It's, hey, there's berm. It's 4 down. This is what we're doing. Done. This is bear. Here's our skill set. Here's our calls. This is what we're doing. So you have to build that. It can't be the first time you see it is when you see it, but you're not gonna overwhelm those guys or water it down to, have them slow down that way too.
How much time do you spend on that every day or every practice or I guess adjusted is not what y'all do for a living.
Well, you're in an installation phase, so you're trying to touch on the base stuff and then build from there. There's not necessarily a checklist per se, but you need to make sure in certain protections you touch those with the quarterbacks. In certain run schemes you touch that with the tight ends if they're involved. If the running backs need to see something. So you try to just go through your installation phase and build your glossary, and then week by week, what's good versus this. Here's what we ran this week, and then you just kind of work that way.
I think when you got here in the winter, you talked about you wanted your offensive line to have kind of a presence or another team to feel you, I guess I think feel you was the word. Like it was like be like something short, and everybody knew that you were going to run, and you wanted to be able to kind of be good in those situations. How do you kind of coach that over an off-season, spring camp?
You can start showing them like through this, like you talk about it. You work, and then as camp goes on, and you get into a situation, it's a third down, it's a red zone, it's a critical situation. You did it, you ran it, you executed, you had success. Here's the why. Oh, I did that. Oh, we saw that. That's great. And then they put that away. So when that opportunity shows itself in the game, you're ready to make that play. So you put them in those situations as much as we can. Ryan does a great job. If we move the ball around the field, we play situational football, we're touching on all those things. So the first time in the game it happens, like we talked about before, is not the first time they've seen it. They have a book of work, and there's that confidence because they've executed it at a high level.
How much difference have you seen in yourself just in this short span at Ohio State compared to when you were at UCLA?
I gained about 20 pounds. I have more gray hair in my beard than I've ever had. You restart with your room. So I think, just like I said before, coming in, I had your room before, you coordinated before, whatever it may be. This is all new with these guys. So you're starting from square one. Here's me, here's who I am, here's how I'm going to coach you. Here's what we need to get done, how do we get it done, and then you learn your guys. So from the start till now, I've got just a better feel for them. And staying that line, and I think they appreciate that. If you talk to the other guys, like there's not a lot of gray area in offensive line play, right? And so you got to coach them that way. You start talking here, and then you go here, and then all of a sudden they're like, whoa, that's not what you said. You can't do that. So I think just the restart of square one and building it back. Not necessarily a change to something if you're at a place for a long time you don't have to do because you get a little groove going. We're building that groove with these guys right now, so it's fun. I love this room.
One
I
last
don't
question.
I love these guys. This one right here is that. I like this room. I love this room.
Justin, did you have
What are they doing? Do you know? Can you help me? I got you. Yeah, I mean, you just go on installation. You try to see. You try to cover everything in your base installation as we get closer to the game, and you start really honing in on what they have and what they're doing. So there's not been a huge emphasis from our standpoint just yet as detailed, but there's installation where if they play some 3 down, you see 3 down. If they play some 4 down, then you're installing versus those things right now.
Justin, did you have any, from your Indiana connections, any familiarity with Zimichowski before you got here?
I was just honestly as a fan far away, like followed the local kids, but that was it. Seeing the name and know where he's from, and he played against some family people back home. And, I remember seeing that game or something, but outside of that, I'm like,
What specific ways, like his development, why is that important for this team this year?
the more guys you can have that can go and win you a game, the better. And young guys that in year 1, year 2 take a huge step. And so for him personally, because he's passionate, he wants to get on the field, he wants to play. And if he does that, then he helps the team if he's ready to do that. So building as many guys that can be game ready as possible is huge for the team.
How is he taking that step down? I guess even just since the spring.
I mean, just everything he can do to get better. All summer, doing the things that the skill sets and the techniques and the things. He's out doing on his own. He's doing it with the guys. He's texting and calling, asking questions when I'm on vacation, having dinner, and Zin's texting me, asking about a backside 3 section. We're just working, And I think he's having fun doing it.
Coach, thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Jared. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.